Canon just changed the game. 32.5 megapixels, 7K RAW. Eye control autofocus that feels borderline telepathic. This camera shouldn't exist at this price point. But here's the thing nobody's talking about. There's one critical trade-off hiding inside this body that could make or break your decision. And I'm going to show you exactly what it is. If you like fast, honest camera breakdowns without the fluff, consider subscribing to Alt Buzz. We cut through the hype and show you what gear actually does in the field. Short answer? This is the best hybrid Canon has made in years. But only if you shoot the kind of work where specs meet soul. Let me explain. Canon didn't just update the R6, they rebuilt it from the ground up. The sensor is brand new, 32.5 megapixels of full-frame CMOS goodness. But it's not about the number, it's about what that sensor can actually do. The image pipeline got a complete overhaul. Faster readout, cleaner data, less rolling shutter, and that matters more than you think. 7K RAW in a body that costs under $3 grand. Think about that for a second. You're getting cinema-grade resolution in a camera that fits in a shoulder bag. 4K 120 for slow motion that actually looks good. Not upscaled, not cropped. Full sensor readout at 4K 60. This is where Canon stopped playing catch-up and started dictating terms. The rolling shutter issue that plagued the previous generation? Fixed. Not perfect, but dramatically better. Fast pans don't turn into jello anymore. Whip shots hold their shape. It's the kind of upgrade you feel immediately when you're handheld in the streets at dusk, tracking a subject through traffic. IBIS got bumped to 8 stops. And it's not just numbers on a spec sheet. It's the difference between a shaky handheld shot and something that looks like you brought a gimbal. I tested this at golden hour, lens wide open, walking through uneven terrain. The footage came back steady, cinematic, like the camera knew what I wanted before I did. Heat management is where Canon learned from their mistakes. Long recording sessions don't shut you down anymore. I pushed this thing hard. Back-to-back 7K takes in summer heat. It got warm, but it never quit. That's a game changer for anyone doing interviews, events, or narrative work where you can't afford a camera tantrum. Let's talk about what this sensor actually produces. Because megapixels mean nothing if the image falls apart under pressure, dynamic range is gorgeous. Not Sony gorgeous, but close enough that you won't miss it. Shadows lift clean, highlights roll off smooth. There's this organic quality to the files that just feels right. It's Canon's color science doing what Canon does best. Skin tones come out of the camera looking human. Not orange, not green, just real. Low light is where this camera earns respect. I shot a wedding reception. Terrible lighting. Mixed sources. Pushed the ISO to 12,800. The files were usable. Grain structure stayed tight. Detail held up. You could push it further if you needed to, but you wouldn't want to live there. Still, for a hybrid camera at this price point, it punches way above its weight class. Portraits feel effortless. The 32.5 megapixel resolution gives you room to crop, room to print large, room to mess up your framing and still walk away with a killer shot. Sharpness is clinical when you need it, but there's this smoothness to the rendering that keeps things from looking digital. It's a weird balance, but it works. Landscape surprised me. I took this body to the coast at sunrise. Wide-angle glass, shot raw. The amount of detail in the shadows and midtones was stunning. You could see texture in the rocks, gradation in the sky, depth in the water. Files had weight to them. Not sterile, not flat, just rich. Now let's get into the video side, because this is where the R6 Mark III stops being a photo camera with video features and becomes something else entirely. 7K RAW is absurd. The amount of information you capture is borderline overkill for most projects. But when you need it, when you're doing commercial work, high-end client deliverables, narrative shorts, you have it. The flexibility in post is unreal. You can reframe, you can stabilize, you can grade aggressively without the image crumbling. 4K 60 is buttery smooth. Full sensor readout means no crop, no line skipping, no compromises. 4K 120 slow motion looks cinematic, not that weird digital slow-mo feel you get from cheaper bodies. This has weight. Motion cadence feels natural. You could cut this into high-end productions and nobody would blink. Rolling shutter is massively improved, but it's not gone. Fast whip pans still show some wobble. It's way better than the previous R6, but if you're used to a global shutter or stack sensors, you'll notice it. Not a deal breaker. Just something to be aware of when you're planning fast camera moves. Color depth in video mode is stunning. Log profiles are clean. You're working with serious latitude. The files hold up under heavy grading. I pushed a sunset scene hard in post, recovered blown highlights, lifted crushed shadows. The image stayed together. That's rare in a hybrid body. IBIS performance during video is where this camera shines. Handheld documentary work feels stable, gimbal-like. I shot an entire short film handheld with a 50mm prime. The footage looked locked down. No micro jitters, no distracting shake, just smooth cinematic motion. If you're a run-and-gun shooter, this feature alone justifies the upgrade. Heat limits are real but manageable. Long 7K takes will eventually trigger warnings, but we're talking 20+ minutes of continuous recording before things get sketchy. For most real-world scenarios, you'll hit a natural break before the camera does. 4K modes run cooler. You can shoot all day without worry. Is this a true hybrid creator's tool? Yes, but with a caveat I'll get to in a moment. Autofocus is where Canon flexes. I control autofocus's back, and it's better. You look at your subject through the viewfinder, and the camera locks on. It sounds gimmicky. It's not. Once you calibrate it properly, it becomes second nature. You're not hunting for focus points. You're not thumbing a joystick. You just look, and the camera responds. Subject tracking is relentless. People, animals, vehicles. The camera stays locked. I shot a kid running through a park at 40 frames per second. Every single frame was tack sharp. Face tracking held through occlusion, through motion blur, through chaos. It's the kind of autofocus that lets you focus on composition instead of technical execution. 40 frames per second burst is fast, but more importantly, it's consistent. The buffer is deep enough that you're not hitting walls during critical moments. Sports shooters, wildlife photographers, event pros, this camera keeps up. The mechanical shutter is responsive. The electronic shutter is silent. You have options depending on the situation. Real-world speed during fast shoots is where this camera proves its worth. I covered a street festival, harsh midday light, fast-moving subjects, unpredictable moments. The R6 Mark III kept pace. Autofocus didn't hunt. Burst mode didn't choke. I walked away with keepers. That's all that matters. Handling is refined. The grip feels substantial without being bulky. Menu flow is cleaner than previous Canon bodies, though it's still not as intuitive as Sony's system. You'll spend some time in the menus initially, but once you have your custom settings dialed in, you won't need to go back often. Dual card slots. Finally, both UHS 2 compatible. You can run backup recording or overflow depending on your workflow. Battery life is solid. You'll get through a full day of mixed shooting without swapping. Ports include full-size HDMI, USB-C for charging and tethering, headphone and mic jacks. Everything you need is here. Compared to the previous R6, this is a meaningful upgrade. Better sensor, better video specs, better heat management, better autofocus. If you're on the original R6 and shooting hybrid work professionally, the jump makes sense. If you're primarily a still shooter who occasionally records video, you might be fine staying put. Price sits around $2,700 to $2,800 for the body. That puts it in direct competition with the Sony A7 V. Sony has the edge in autofocus consistency and lens ecosystem maturity. Canon has the edge in color science and ergonomics. It comes down to what system you're already invested in and which trade-offs you're willing to accept. Who should upgrade? Hybrid shooters who need serious video specs in a stills-first body. Wedding photographers who want 4K 120 for highlight reels. Content creators who value color science and usability over raw spec sheets. landscape shooters who need resolution and dynamic range, event photographers who need reliable autofocus and deep buffers. Who should wait? Pixel peepers who need the absolute highest resolution. Video-first shooters who might be better served by a dedicated cinema body. Budget shooters who can get 90% of this performance from older gear. Sony shooters with deep lens investments who don't want to switch ecosystems. Here's the critical trade-off I mentioned at the start. This camera is incredible at almost everything, but it's not the absolute best at any one thing. It's not the highest resolution stills camera. It's not the most advanced video camera. It's not the smallest or the lightest. What it is the best balance. And for most creators, balance is more valuable than spec sheet dominance. Final verdict? The R6 Mark III is the hybrid camera Canon should have made 2 years ago. It's mature, it's capable, it's reliable. If you need a single body that can handle high-end stills and professional video without compromise, this is it. The 7K RAW and improved IBIS alone make it a standout in this price range. But remember, this camera rewards shooters who know what they're doing. It's not going to make you a better photographer. It's just going to stop getting in your way. So would you upgrade to the R6 Mark III? Drop a comment and let me know. If you found this breakdown helpful, consider hitting that subscribe button. Super thanks and memberships help keep AltBuzz running, and we've got behind-the-scenes content live on our website right now. Check the description for links to batteries, lenses, memory cards, and everything else you'll need to get the most out of this body. And tell me, what was your favorite shot from this video? I want to know what caught your eye. Thanks for watching, stay creative, and I'll see you in the next one.